Ladies and gentlemen.
Bob Odenkirk is a father, a husband, and a man who watches his life quietly unravel. He's also the best reason to go see a movie that sneaks up on you and then absolutely refuses to be boring. This is Nobody, a small, brutal action movie with surprisingly big heart. So with that, let's dig in. Bob Odenkirk plays Hutch, doing mundane life stuff. He's got kids. He's got a family. He's missing the trash day. Don't know why he didn't take out the night before, but hey. This was directed by Ilya Nashuler, I hope I said that correctly. Written by Derek Kolstad, yes, the John Wick guy. Nobody gives us a familiar premise. You got a quiet man with a very violent past who's pushed too far, but instead of being a copy, it's more like a cousin that drinks a lot of coffee but punches harder. In this film, we meet Hutch, who's an average, all the ways the movie love, suburban, overlooked, polite to a fault guy. Works a normal job, tolerates his kids' chaos, and gets ignored by the neighborhood. When burglars break into his house and he doesn't fight back, it sets off a chain reaction, not because he's weak, but because he's choosing something. And choice is the movie's slow fuse. Now, spoilers ahead if you haven't watched Nobody. Congratulations on the most pleasant possible cinematic surprise left for you. If you want to stay clean, skip about the next 30 seconds or so. And with that, let's start getting into this movie. So, Hutch's decision not to fight ends up leading to shame and anger, and then you have that escalate into violence. He gets into a bus fight that looks like somebody glued an old school grindhouse film into modern streets, and then discovers, shock, that he used to be a terrifying professional, a nothing man who you basically sent to go get jobs done. So think John Wick, except not necessarily the Baba Yaga, more like, he's killing people who are corrupt and stuff like that, or have danger, in their eyes.
I'm gonna fuck you up.
What makes a screenplay smart is that it's not just punishment porn. Hutch isn't this flawless avenger. He's messy. He screws up parenting moments, and he's searching for his dignity, not just revenge, because his family doesn't take him seriously. So that small human center is what transforms this explosive action into a movie that you actually end up caring about. Reason number one, the man himself, Bob Odenkirk. This is the part he was born to play. We already knew him as Saul Goodman, charming, slippery, and alive, but nobody lets him be all silent and creepy and badass. He's physical here in a way that he rarely was on Breaking Bad or Better. Actually, he never was. And he has a quiet stare, bruises, cigarettes, stuff like that. He's tragic when needed and absolutely terrifying when needed as well. Reason number two is the action design. The director had a background in kinetic POV heavy filmmaking with Hardcore Henry, and so these fights give us that feel immediate. They're not in first person POV, but the choreography blends realism, bone crunches, cinematic flourishes. The bus brawl is a masterclass in confined space fighting. It's claustrophobic and actually painful to watch. You feel every contact because, once again, not like a John Wick, Hutch isn't headshot, headshot, headshot. He's getting beat up. He's getting hurt. And so reason number three is the tone control. Nobody walks a tightrope between ultra-violent revenge film and kind of that suburban dark comedy. The screenplay often pops a joke in the middle of a bloody set piece, which could go wrong, but with Odenkirk's delivery and the film's self-awareness, it keeps you smiling even while you're cringing. And nothing's perfect. The film leans on a familiar man with a secret past trope, and the plot mechanics occasionally ask you to accept big leaps without much setup. The villain is kind of standard issue, evil Russian mob type, while, keeping the stakes clear but lacking nuance. And at times the movie flirts a little too much with a hyper revenge fantasy, but to be honest, the emotional through line, family, belonging, and worth kind of redeems those weaknesses, if I'm being honest. On the technical side of things, cinematography is clean and purposeful. The colors skew muted for the domestic scenes, then flash neon and steel for the betrayal, night, sequences that we see. The editing favors pace, quick on impact, slower in the aftermath, which lets the comedy and pathos land, and the soundtrack is subtle, leaning on those low synths and percussion. Nothing showy, but it supports the film's mood perfectly, pretty much. And I would say my favorite scene is probably everybody's favorite scene in this movie is the bus fight. It's film's purest distillation. Stakes are immediate, choreography is clever, and it's the moment where Hutch repositions in our mind from a dad to a dangerous instrument. It's the turning point, and it slaps. I'd also say it's very funny when his father shoots that guy with a shotgun in the chair. That's also very funny. Performance highlights beyond Odenkirk. You have Connie Nielsen as his wife, who brings the emotional anchor. Christopher Lloyd, who plays his father, has a funny cameo. And Riz's small role but memorable role provides both menace and style. Everyone plays their part in making this a compact, satisfying whole. Underneath the punching and the property damage, nobody asks you, what does it mean to be visible, to be respected? Hutch's nothing identity is less about skill and more about being overlooked. The movie argues that reclaiming yourself isn't about breaking people. It's about refusing to accept erasure. It's an oddly tender theme for an action flick, and it's kind of what lifts the film above the genre checklist. Now, comparison time, because everybody does this, unfortunately, with this movie. Is it John Wick? No, but it is a close cousin. John Wick is, that balletic type fighting. Nobody is very humored, scrappy. John Wick was a neo-tinge revenge opera. Nobody is a grimy, well-acted revenge sitcom that turned violent. So what do I give it? I think Nobody is one of those movies that is wildly entertaining, anchored by an amazing lead performance, and it finds its real heart beneath the chaos. It doesn't reinvent the wheel, but it polishes it until it's gleaming and sharp. And so we see Odenkirk's glare, his rage, the house in flames scene. And now, a quick moment for who this movie is for. I feel like if you love grounded visceral action with a surprisingly human center and character, if you came for a character more than spectacle, if you want someone who can sell a punch and a side, Nobody is for you. If you want, this world building or morally ambiguous villains, this might feel small, but small here is what works this movie's favor. That's why I'm very excited for the sequel this week. So my final thoughts is that Nobody gave Bob Odenkirk the opportunity to show that he's not just a great dramatic actor or even a comic foil. He's an action star when he wants to be, and a package that still remembers to care. It's loud when it needs to be, quiet when it should be, and it's surprisingly thoughtful for a film that spends a lot of time smashing faces. If you like this deep dive, smash that like button, subscribe for more Pixel and Popcorn reviews, and tell me in the comments, do you guys think that Hutch deserved redemption, or was he just catching up? And also at Nobody 2 out later on this week, are you guys excited? Are you guys going to see it? Drop a comment, and I will be reviewing that later on this week, so tune in for that. And until next time, I will catch you guys on the next one.